Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. How you doing today? It sounds awesome. So, as most of you know, Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing was earlier this week. It was 7 hours one day, a number of hours the next day. You could watch it live, you could still watch it. But one of the things that stood out to me was Chad sat there with this like weird face the whole time. It looked like a sad toad face. He was like frozen. It was unbelievable, to the point where I was thinking, is this his defense? Is he going with the sad toad face defense, where you just sit there like this and it was like hypnotizing? I have concerns that at the big moment where the prosecution is showing the jury the evidence that really locks down the case, they're like, members of the jury, here is the evidence. And I'm worried that just no one in the jury is even going to be paying attention, because everyone's going to be looking at Chad's toad face. Like, what is he doing? Why is he just sitting like that? The prosecutor's like, excuse me, everybody, this is... And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, what? Can somebody poke him or something? What is he doing? It was mesmerizing. So anyway, that was the first thing that stood out to me. This is like 7 hours of the same strange face. Okay, so second on the docket today is their body cam audio of the welfare check in November, where law enforcement went to the house that Lori was staying at to check on JJ. And I had always thought, how do you... If there's a welfare check, how do you get past it? I always wondered, what do you say for a welfare check? You think that law enforcement would say, when they're hearing Lori's long, rambly story, just like, oh, yeah, we hear you, life's tough, that K woman sounds like a real nightmare, but we have to check on... We actually have to check on JJ for the welfare check. That's the whole thing with the welfare check. So... we're sorry everybody's against you. We're sorry there's dark forces and this K woman hates you and you can't tell anyone the truth because of the dark forces, but we actually need... Yeah, I know that you said that you said the JJ's down with Melanie, one of your friends, and they're at Frozen 2, but lady, call her. Tell her to leave Frozen 2. And this is a welfare check. So, like I said, I always wondered, how do you... get past that? And so we get to see, so the police officers show up. Hi, how are you? And they're like, yeah, we got to check on JJ. And you really get to see just how much of a rambling, lying nightmare that Lori is. And here's one of her big monologues to try to get through this welfare check, but it worked. She goes, so I don't tell people the truth about where we are and what we're doing because all of those reasons. So I look like a suspect, but I'm a good person. I raised all my kids. I've done everything I'm supposed to do in life, but everyone's causing me trouble right now. And they're like, we don't want to cause you trouble. We don't want to cause you trouble. And, she goes with, yeah, JJ's down with my friend. JJ's with Melanie, my friend. And obviously he's not, and Melanie later in a phone call is like, why would you tell him JJ's with me? And so she's like, yeah, he's down with Melanie because Kay wants to ruin me and take JJ. And they're like, all right, well, can you call Melanie? Seems reasonable. It's a welfare check. You got to come through with the checking on the welfare. Can you call Melanie? We just got to do this. Then we can leave. We'll get out of your hair. We don't want to cause any trouble. And she goes, nah, I think they're at Frozen 2. At one point, she describes JJ too. She goes, he's very special needs. They're at Frozen 2. And the cops buy it. They're like, okay, well, we were here for a welfare check, but I guess you can't interrupt Frozen 2. So just let us know if you hear anything about your son, They ended up going to Hawaii the next day. Tiny bubbles. But it was just fascinating to listen to the police like apologize to her. Just, we're sorry to cause you trouble. If they're at Frozen, we understand. It's a good movie. And so that one I thought was pretty interesting. The second thing, we got to hear Chad talk to Lori. Chad was at his property while it was being searched, which adds a whole element to the conversation. So Chad is talking to Lori, who's in jail, while the FBI and everybody is searching his properties where they would later find the bodies. And Chad sounds like he's continuously crapping his pants the whole phone call. And I was pretty excited to hear the phone call and then let down because you can't really even understand it. This is what it sounds like, Chad going, they're searching the property. And Laura's like, that's okay, baby. Is there anything I can do for you, baby? She's talking in this weird child cutesy creeper voice. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the comically unrealistic decoys from the To Catch a Predator series, where they have like an adult take those phone calls from all the predators, and the predator's like, hey, 12-year-old boy, how you doing? And it's like, I'm doing pretty good, mister. What are you thinking about? Are you coming over and bringing pizza and lube? And you're sitting there thinking, how does this person not know that they're talking to a 35-year-old who's trying to get him to come over? But that's how Lori sounds. She's like, are they seizing stuff again? And Chad's like, and I don't know if Chad is just drugged or crapping himself. I picture him staring out the kitchen window while he's on the phone with Lori. Lori's like, can I do anything for you? Do you want me to pray? And he's just looking at the kitchen window as they're digging in the spot. Just going, At one point, Lori goes, can I call you later? And he goes, yeah, you can try. I'll pick up if you can. And I was watching the Court TV's YouTube channel's commentary on the whole thing, and the woman on Court TV was saying, is he, tired of Lori? Is he going to distance himself? And is that why he's like, nah, you can call me. Yeah, don't even call me later. He kind of had that. She was like, can I call you later, baby? And he was like, I don't know. I'll answer if I can. And then the dude on Court TV was saying, I think probably he was just thinking, I probably won't be able to answer because I'm going to be in jail. And I think that is probably it. I think he was sitting there on the phone, barely even could comprehend what was going on. I mean, imagine you're talking to your wife who's in jail. You know your time's ticking. You're staring at the kitchen window as a team digs in the spot. It had been snow and frozen and everything the last time I think they were there, and he's sitting there just going, I think he needs to take a good old-fashioned stress poop in the sunflowers like Chris Watts. And so I think you could tell that he knew he was going to be in a jumpsuit with Lori very soon after that. So I thought that was pretty interesting to listen to that phone call. And then the last thing is the phone call. I thought it was pretty interesting. The secret recorded phone call between Melanie and Lori and Chad. So soon after we had heard about this, soon after the kids went missing, Melanie was contacted by law enforcement saying, can you call them? I think they thought Melanie could be involved, and Lori had said, JJ's with Melanie. They're at Frozen 2. I wish we could check on him, but, Frozen 2, it's good. And so Melanie records a phone call and calls Lori and Chad. Calls Lori, or I guess calls Chad's phone, but they're both sitting there on speakerphone. And at this point in this call, you can tell that a lot of people around Lori and Chad have gone from supporting them and believing them and all of this stupid stuff, stupid stories that they have been peddling. And at this point in the call, a lot of the people, even that maybe were with them at one point, have started to show suspicion or just be like, what, Lori? This doesn't make any sense. And Melanie is getting to that point. And you can tell Melanie and Lori are really good friends. And they end up they have the conversation that any two friends would have in this situation. But they have to do it through scripture. It's almost like a religion off in a way. It's like a religion duel. The way drummers have a drum duel where one sits there and like plays his favorite beat and then the other one plays an even more complicated beat. And they were doing that with religion. So it was like, I want to read you a scripture. And then it was like, oh, well, thank you for reading that. I want to read you a scripture. And then there's a lot of like, I think your salvation is in trouble. And it's like, honey, my salvation's not in trouble. I think your salvation's in trouble. And I think you need to ask the Lord about that again. And it's like, I don't need to ask the Lord. You need to ask the Lord. And it gets into this, it's like a high school, instead of just calling Lori out, like, this is nuts, what are you doing? The call out has to be through the scripture, if that makes sense. And at the beginning of the phone call, it sounds really just acted and staged. And Melanie's like, so, where do you think the kids are? And Lori immediately senses that, and then a little bit into the phone call, she actually even says, like, I don't know if you're recording this for the police or you've been contacted by dark forces or someone dark. And there's a lot of, Lori, you get to see, it's a lot of just whenever she's at a point where she's being grilled or asked a tough question, it's just real easy to be like, I'm doing everything that the Lord requires of me on a day-to-day basis. And Melanie's like, well, I don't think you are. And I think Melanie, I respect Melanie. She sounds like a good friend, a decent person. And what Melanie was saying is, I don't really know the scriptures, but she was saying, you know, if you lived a solid life without doing all of these dark things, they love calling things dark. It was dark. They're dark. Dark things. And so she's making the point, if you were not doing dark things, then you wouldn't have all of these dark spirits or whatever following you, because Lori is going with the vibes of, we're just doing everything right and all of these dark forces are against us, and even you, Melanie, sounds like the dark people have gotten to you and all of this stuff. And Melanie is going, if you just live a good life, none of this happens. It's not just bad luck that all of this darkness is following you. And she goes, I think you were tricked by Satan. And Lori's like, I wasn't tricked by Satan. You were tricked by Satan, or something like that. But I mean, I felt like it's the same conversation that I would have with my best friend, being like, dude, this isn't just a bad luck soup. This isn't just you're living a normal, decent life and it's all just coming. Like, how is this happening? And Melanie is selling it. If you don't live this type of life where you're going around killing your whole family, the Lord protects you and keeps everything in your life bright and good, and you don't have all these people checking on you and law enforcement and stress and stuff. And Lori's just waves the whole thing off of, yeah, no, what is it called? My salvation's not in trouble. Your salvation's in trouble. And, but after Lori calls her out, just being like, I don't know if this is recorded or whatever, it gets way better. It's almost like Melanie was trying to make it sound all real, like, tell me in a clear voice exactly what happened. happened? And it sounded fake and acted like she was trying to get a recording. And then after she got called out, she kind of relaxed a little bit, and it turned more into, the classic two best friends arguing about how one of them murdered everyone they know. And, yeah, they're just doing a full religion off. Just let me read you a scripture. Oh, I appreciate that, but let me read you another one that tops that one, and it's a full-on duel. And at one point, Chad gets on and is slow. Melanie, I can vouch for Lori. It's like, you sound like a real scream to be around, Chad. Just this slow-talking toad dude. And then it ends, the phone call ends with Lori going, when Werbo, talk about when Jesus Christ comes back soon, which the day they called, he didn't come back, unfortunately. But she's saying to Melanie, when he comes back and we're standing there right next to him, you tell me if I'm lying. You tell me if I'm lying when we're standing there next to Jesus Christ. And then she hangs up. Boop, boop, boop. So she ends on this big monologue. So I thought those were interesting audios to get. And I think that from the welfare check audio, and I guess just kind of the whole thing, I think what I think happened is Lori and Chad, they wanted the life insurance money from Charles Vallow. So I think they planned to get rid of him. Figured out he changed the beneficiary, so it wasn't Lori. But I guess he's already gone or something. And then Alex had to go, which is Lori's brother. Alex had to go because he knew too much. And there was even one point in one of these conversations, I can't remember what it was, where they were like, well, that's not what Alex said. And Lori goes, well, I don't know why he would even say that. So you could even see at that moment, they were probably thinking, well, now we got to kill Alex too. If he's not going with the plan, or if he's saying the wrong thing, he can't last. And then, obviously, JJ, who Lori described as very special needs, he probably didn't fit in their new life plan of being rich and together. And so you sort of see it, why, this whole time we had no idea the cult and Lori's such a weirdo and all this stuff, and it's slowly and sadly coming together, in my opinion. Like I said, the judge did move it along to trial. I don't know if it's going to be all live streamed like this preliminary hearing was, but I think they might as well. There's a lot of public interest in it. And I guess right now, Chad is sitting in a jail cell with the same toad face that he was just... And that's where we're going to end. I hope you guys are having a great week. I'll see you next week. Why? Stavin' why? Last question.